There we go. Now we're going to talk about UVs, and we've already talked about them before, but now it's time to get ready for the export because we're going to be using some of these materials. I actually find a little bit of a way to share with you some of the textures so that if you don't have access to these files right here, you can still do the final presentation. Now, this right here is what, like 5 hours of work, and you can see we get a very, very, very nice result, very complex character. We still need to add the head, we still need to add the mask, we still need to add the boots. I'm gonna give you guys a couple of boots as well, and the baton and a lantern. So there's still stuff to do, but I just want to take this moment to again drive home the point that it's important to dedicate time to works. Okay, we've been working on a single character for 5 hours. If we really wanted this to be like for a cinematic or something, we'll probably be spending 100 hours on the character, and you can imagine how much farther we can take this. Right now, I cannot do a 100-hour tutorial because it's going to be very, very boring for you guys, but you can hopefully understand that once you're in a studio situation or with a client, the amount of time that you're going to spend on something is going to be significantly bigger than the ones that you spend here on a tutorial. So now let's go here to the UV window. Now, as we know, the UVs of our patterns are all up to scale. So the cape right here, all of the elements, everything is up to scale. But I don't want every single element to be in a single UV. Usually, especially for a character like this, which has a lot of surface area, we want to be covering things in multiple elements. Unfortunately, we don't have an option right here. We have this UV packing option, but we don't have one as control as what we normally find inside of Maya or inside of Blender. However, it's still going to give us a nice effect. So I'm just going to go here to UV packing. I'm going to go 0 to 1. I'm going to hit apply. And what's going to happen here, if I should grab everything, there we go. If I hit apply, what's going to happen is all of these guys are going to be packed now into the 0 to 1 UV space. The cool thing about Marvel's Designer and UVs is that since we work with flat planes in a 2D view, the UVs are automatically done. We don't need to do any unfolds, we don't need to do anything, they're automatically done. They might not be the most efficient ones, but they're ready to work with any titleable texture. Even if you bring this into Substance, you can directly texture this, add a little bit of dirt, a little bit of grime, a little bit of damage, all of these things you can do with the UVs very, very easily. Let me pause real quick, wait for this to finish. As you can imagine, this is going to be a little bit heavy because it's a lot of pieces. And I'll show you the result. There we go. So it took about a minute, I would say. And as you can see, all of my islands are very nicely packed here into our element. Now, I need to talk about something very, very important, which is called the texel density. So when we are working with a texel or when any texture, there is a certain amount of density that a texture is going to be able to hold. This is a perfect example right here. You can see this little car right here. If I'm using a 2048 by 2048 texture on the whole car, I'm going to have an average a 20.48 pixel per centimeter of the car. However, if I make that car bigger, as you can see right here, the pixels per centimeter is going to go really, really, really low. Look at that, 5.12. That's very, very small. So even though it's the same size technically on the texture, because well, it's half the size, right? But even though it's the same UV, what's going to happen is the density of your object is going to change. And this is important again once we're going into gaming and stuff like that, but it's important to just take it into consideration here, because what's happening here, as you can see for instance with the tabard, is the tabard now has a very, very, very little tiny space on the UV space, which it's not really that much of a deal because we're going to be using titleable textures and we can repeat the textures hundreds of times so that it gets a lot of resolution. But just keep it in mind in case you want to bring this into because you want to bring this into Substance Painter or something like that. Now, there is an option here on the packing that allows us to rotate the panels. I don't recommend it because then it's a little bit difficult to find, but this one is very important. Fixed scale ratio. We want to make sure that the scales of our object are proper. What do I mean by this? Well, if we take a look, for instance, at the mask right here, you can see that the size of the mask is way, way, way bigger than the size of the inside of the tabard. And that's not what we want. We want everything to be exactly in the same scale. Now, again, as you might imagine, one issue that we might have here is that not everything is going to fit in a single island, okay? Here's where, again, we can use another thing, which is this option right here, which is UDIMs. If you have never heard about UDIMs, don't worry. We also have a very good video on the YouTube channel, completely for free, that you can check about them. It's like a canon. And what UDIMs do is you actually go outside of your 0 to 1 space. I don't want to use UDIMs right now because I feel like that's going to confuse people a little bit more than we should, but we are going to be using tellable textures. However, before that, I do want to go here and check the fixed scale ratio. I'm going to hit apply again. It's going to do its own fold. I'm going to show you the result in just a second. So as you can see, this is another view, but still, it's not exactly how I would expect it to be. And you can see again, the mask is really big compared to the tabard sizes. Is this going to be a problem? Yes, eventually it might be a problem. So let me show you here how we can do this over on the elements. I'm going to select the tile, and what I'm going to do here is on the U tile, which is the horizontal version, and the V tile, I'm going to select 3. Oh, actually over here. And one of the things that we can do is I can go to my 2D pattern window, and let's say I want to pack the tabard, right? It's a big shape right here. So I'm going to grab all of the tabard shapes, going to go back to UV editor. And once all of these tabard shapes are grabbed, what I can say here is go to the UV packing options, and I want to pack all of these UV tiles on a specific tile. I want to pack this on the 1, 0 on this one. So this is 0, 0, this is 0, 1. If I hit apply now, what's going to happen is I'm going to be moving all of this back into this area, and you can see the size now does change. Now, it doesn't really matter that they're out in the UDIM space, because again, with the tileable texture, it's going to work pretty much exactly the same. But just keep this in mind. If you find a specific piece, or if you want to pack things a little bit better, one thing that you can do is, again, jump into your 3D or 2D pattern window, grab a specific element, let's say all of the sleeps, for instance. I'm going to go again to the UV editor, go to the packing options, and this one's going to go to UV tile 2, or sorry, not this one. This one's 0. This one is 2. I'm going to hit apply. And again, what's going to happen is all of them are going to be now on this area right here, which should give me more textile resolution, right? Like there's more density to the element. Yes, this is going to occupy more UV space, but since we're not doing texturing inside of Substance and we're just going to be using tileable textures, I feel like this is perfectly fine. I'm going to do another one. Let's go to 3D window, or sorry, 2D pattern window again. Let's grab all of the globs. So all of the globs, we're going to go again to the UV editor, packing options, select tile. This is going to be 4, and I'm going to say apply. And again, what should happen here is now on the 4th UV tile, we're going to have all of the globs ready to go. Will this give you the most precise UV information? No, it's not going to be like the most precise, but it's going to be a lot closer to what you might expect. If you want to have like super precise elements, it is recommended that you do this inside of traditional software, again, like Blender or Maya. And again, considering that this is the high poly, for those of you that are aware of the high poly, low poly workflow, we're not going to be using these UVs. We're going to eventually be doing a retopology or adding more details inside of ZBrush, and UVs are going to change and are going to be way more optimized for a game-ready topology or for an animation topology, for instance. Now, here I made a mistake. As you can see, this is like 1 square away. You can go here to the move UVs, and I can just click on 1 right here. And since the distance is set to 1, it's going to move it 1 UDIM tile, which again, very, very cool. Now, there's enough space on this one. I don't think we need to separate them into other pieces. So I'm just going to grab all of these guys right here, and I'm going to just say 0 to 1 default and hit apply. And since those are the only ones that I'm selecting, the mask, the cape, and the pants, it seems, they're all going to be in the same element. So there we go. Now we have all of these UVs ready for our character. Again, you decide which one is better for you. You're going to see in the next couple of videos once we go into Blender how they will work with the textures that we're going to be using. But depending on which one you want, you will be able to change depending on whatever you want. A lot of UV tiles or just everything into a single one. If you have everything into a single one, just keep in mind that resolution is going to be very low. If we do something like this, and you can go even crazier and have like a lot of UDIMs, then the resolution is going to be very high. So yeah, hopefully that's not too confusing, my friends. I know that if this is the first software, the 3D software that you're learning, then talking about UVs might be a little bit tricky. Again, we have content on the YouTube channel if you want to check it out about UVs so that it makes it a little bit clearer. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll see you back on the next video when we talk about export.